Alright, guys, welcome to the market view video for tomorrow. As usual, we start with discussing about what we had talked about in the last video and what is basically happening in the market right now. So, in the last video, I had discussed about this base right here. You see this hourly base and specifically this supply right here, right? So, I told that even if it breaks out from here, I wouldn't be a buyer, right? And that did not happen, fortunately. It just started to fall before the market opened itself, right? So this is the 6:30 candle in the morning when the India 50 opens, right? It closes around 132, I think, 2:30, right? And then it opens on 6:30. So basically it's traded throughout the day, right? And it started to fall. So my expectation was that I'll take a long if it holds this base. Or I'll take a long if it holds this base. But there was this demand zone right here. So if the demand is not clear, let me just switch to the candles. All right. If you see this demand zone right here, it went down below this demand zone for a momentary spike, and then it started to go back up again. All right. So all in all, if you see this base right here, it was reacting from this demand itself, which broke through the structure, right? So this was your previous supply right here. This entire candle, basically a big range on the lower time frame, and then this was the demand which was formed to take out this supply, and here is your imbalance, which took out the supply, right? This imbalance right here broke this supply, and then we moved straight into the next supply, which is somewhere here. So now we pulled back to this area. This pullback uh, got extended very deep, probably because of some global market influence, but still we are pretty good here, right? And a good thing about this pullback was we created a lot of space. Alright, if you see, there was a lot of space to move, which is why the index recovered back up very fast, and now we are building up that range right here. Alright, so now if you see what is happening in the index, and this is the hourly chart of India 50, right? So we have broken down through this demand, right? So you see, we tested out this demand once, we tested out this demand twice, but this supply was never taken out. This supply right here was never taken out, and then we broke down right now, um, around around the last hour itself, around 2:33, and we started to break down here, right? So now, what kind of structure is forming here? This supply which is there, right? These supplies which are there, they're very strong now, all right? So what can be the expected move from here on? The expected move is either we hold this demand zone, all right, even though there's a lot of space below it still. But if you're holding this demand zone, then we'll see some sort of a range develop between this high and this zone right here. We're kind of seeing some rejection right here, and we will see some range develop. And this is actually confirmed with the US market index. All right, if you see US market index has pulled back to the previous demand zone right here, right? So we can probably see some sort of a sideways bounce or maybe a bounce till this supply as well, right? Another thing which can happen is in the US markets we can go down straight to this base because this demand zone is just a continuation demand zone, all right? It's already been tested once, right? So if we don't bounce from here to this previous supply, we might go till this level now, right? Which is this demand zone inside the base, and then we can start going back up again, right? Uh, there is still time to the Indian market open tomorrow. There's a lot of time. The US market also will open tonight. So we'll see how it develops. But the entire view for this is setting up like we expecting some sort of bounce from the current price. All right. And your important zone of supply will be this highest supply. And on the India 50 chart as well, it is this supply right here. All right. So let's see, there's a lot of space here as well. So if it starts to cover out this space, then this demand will definitely hold the price for some time here. So you can plan some longs here as well. But the current view in this chart is that we'll see some sort of a range develop here. We won't see a big move yet. We'll see some sort of range complete um, because this demand is also untested and this supply is also very strong. So some sort of range will shape up in this chart as well. All right, I've given you the extremes. You can plan your trades around your extremes based on how the market behaves. If any of these extremes is broken, then the view is basically nullified. So then we'll have to work with this demand, or if the supply is broken, then we have to work with this supply. All right. So we'll have to watch for that. But right now, I don't think any of the two will get broken tonight itself because the US index is also around a nice area of demand. All right. So no clear view as such, but we're expecting some range to form between the given zones. So let's check out the sectoral indices one by one. Again, we'll start with the top gainers. Metals are top gainers again. On the metal, if you see on the hourly chart, it's taking out every supply, every base. It took out every base right here, right? And next, the supply is somewhere here. So there's still some space on the upside for the metals, but we're very extended on the short term, right? We're very extended on the short term, and the demand zones also. These demand zones are not that good because they are formed in the middle of nowhere. All right, demand zones are good when they are formed inside a much bigger base, right? And also around the 50 EMA as well. When they're formed in the middle of nowhere, then these demand zones are not that powerful. All right. So tomorrow, if you see that the metal index is starting to break through this demand zone, then we can get a clear shot till this level, or maybe till the 50 EMA, something like this. All right. So don't take a long in the metal stocks right now. We are clearly extended on the short term, right? A strong hourly demand zone is somewhere here, but I doubt it will come down unless Nifty falls a lot. So don't really go long on metal stocks. Wait for some pullback to happen around this level at least. All right. So now Nifty Energy again, we are at a zone of supply right here, right? So again, you can see some rejection in Nifty Energy, and there's a lot of space as well. So you see there is a demand zone right here, right? So what we can see in Nifty Energy on in the coming week, which is in the coming days, which is from tomorrow, is we can trade this range again, right? Similar to Nifty, right? So most of the indices you will see that your view will set up similar to Nifty, right? If any index you're seeing that is trying to do something other than what Nifty is doing, then you should probably avoid that because that might not be a very big move, right? So Nifty IT as well, if you see, there is a nice supply right here, all right, a very strong supply actually, and now the demand zone is also right here. So again, it gives us room to make a range in Nifty IT, all right. Of course, one of these sectors might break out. You never know about which one is going to break out. So that is going to happen, of course, in some sectors like in Nifty Metal. We are anticipating a long around this high, but around this demand. But it started to break out in the morning itself. All right, so some sector might break out. Don't try to anticipate that. Stocks, the sectors which move with Nifty will probably move the most, right? In the direction which Nifty is going, right? So again, now Nifty mid cap, if you see, some interesting things are going on in Nifty mid cap and the small cap index. All right, they have reached an area of daily demand zone. Right, this is your daily demand in Nifty mid cap, right? And what we are doing on the hourly chart here is we formed a pretty nice base, right? We formed a pretty nice base. This entire down move was negated, and the previous supply is also quite far away. Even though we are at the 50 EMA level right now, I'll still be long biased in the Nifty mid cap sector as well, right? Nifty mid cap 100. This is so Nifty Media again, similar kind of a setup. Nothing. See, no index right now will move. Um, nothing will move. I mean, very differently to Nifty, all right? Because if you're in a downtrend, so in a downtrend, mostly you'll see at the beginning of big falls, all indices are moving together. Look at this. All charts will look relatively very similar. So this is the time when you trade the index and not individual stocks, because you see all these sectors, they're forming similar structures. There's a demand zone here. There's a previous supply which led to this last low, and then we'll probably see some range bound action here as well. Small cap index is well again the same thing. Even though we are at a strong daily demand zone, we are seeing some range bound action. The supply is still untested, so we want to see how it reacts around this supply to form our next opinion. All right, Nifty Pharma as well. If you see, no sector is clearly very strong or clearly very weak. All right, even you cannot say something about PSU banks, which looks weaker than the other sectors, but you don't know. There's a lot of space here. It might just break out tomorrow itself. All right, so in the current market, what I'll say is avoid trading individual sectors, right? Especially in intraday, avoid trading individual sectors. You will see a lot of um, index-based movement, and stock-specific movement will be very less. All right, Nifty Auto as well. If you see, Nifty Auto is a bit weak, but will I short at this supply? I won't, because it's look at this. It's tested multiple times on the same day. All right, so I wouldn't short at this supply at all, right? So avoid trading these individual sectors and focus on the index as of now. If things start to improve and the volatility starts to die down, then you will start seeing individual sectors kind of breaking out, and that is when it will be much more fun to trade intraday. All right. Right now, just stick to the Nifty chart. All right. So I'll just repeat it again. The view on Nifty is that we'll expect some some kind of bounce in the US index, and accordingly, we'll expect some kind of a bounce in the India 50 index as well. All right, which is maybe from this demand, or if we happen to break it because of the US index, then definitely from this demand zone. All right, so you can form your view around this level and this previous supply right here, and you can trade using these extremes, right? So that is the view for right now. No clear directional bias. I wouldn't go and straight away try to say that this supply is getting absorbed, because we haven't really tested the deeper ends of this base. All right. So the directional bias is still on the downside actually, right? But again, this range is pretty wide. So usually wide ranges are when the markets are bottoming out. So we'll have to wait for something to happen at the extremes, maybe here or maybe here. For the meantime, intraday, these are the zones which you want to watch out. All right. So that is it for the video. And also, I'll when the market starts to get healthy, I'll try to post stock views as well. Um, and let's see, when the market starts to get healthy enough, we'll do that as well. But for now, this is the view on the market. Nothing special going on. Just a nice range bound action, and we'll plan to trade on the same lines. All right. So this is it for today, and I'll see you guys tomorrow again. And have a good trading day tomorrow.